And then you moved to On Semiconductor.
So when they were closing down the office, On Semiconductor rang me as soon as they heard about it and asked would I like to work for them, because they were another group from Analog Devices who had also been sold. So they would have known about us, and they were looking for some digital designers at the time, and they asked if I was interested, and I obviously was interested. At the same time, Wolfson in Edinburgh were very interested in hiring some of us. So they brought us over to interview us, and they offered a job to about 5 or 6 of us. But then, because the Analog designers pulled out and decided to go back to Intel, they were, they weren't interested. It was less, it was a bigger risk then. We would have had about 3 digital designers working in a little office, an even smaller office in Limerick, and commuting over and back every week to Edinburgh for a day or 2 a week, versus the option of going down the road to On Semiconductor, which had 70 or 80 people. It just sounded more sustainable. So even though the opportunity in Wolfson was probably more interesting because it was audio codecs and things that I had worked on in Analog, the other opportunity was probably more realistic, and also an interest to do something different. They were developing thermal sensors and stuff at the time for chips for Intel. So I had a choice of 2, and I went to On Semiconductor. Spent the next few years there.
Yeah. Okay. Now I will try to wrap up things in a few minutes. It's been an hour, but see, the time passes. Like, it's such an interesting career move, and how things happen, and how you kept taking on things that came your way. So much fun that I didn't realize that much time, and we have like a whole career now, 9 years and income ahead of you. I wanted to ask you at that time, okay, when you comparing yourself to your friends who went outside in US or UK, and you were thinking that you're on the right track, what you did was right, or something was bothering you? Now looking back, I should not have done this or that. What were your feelings before we just spent a few minutes on Intel?
Sure, No, I don't think I really second guessed myself after, once I took the job at Analog Devices, and I never really looked back, or I never really had any regrets about, I should have done something, or no big regrets at least. Everybody has maybe small regrets, but I had no big regrets about anything that I did or didn't do in my career, I guess. So and other friends that went abroad, some got on better than me, some got on worse than me. By going abroad, I wouldn't necessarily have gone any better or worse, I think. So I'm happy I stayed in Ireland, I think. And,
okay.
I'm quite happy with the career I've had to date. While it wasn't planned, I think it's always been interesting, and there's been interesting twists and turns in it. And I just took them as they came.
So next question,
So probably maybe the only other thing to kind of add to it was So when I went to On Semiconductor, I had the third option I'd been looking at the time was Intel. So I kind of had 3 things on the go, and Intel were quite interested in me, but they ended up with two options, and they chose the second option rather than me. But I was already at On Semiconductor anyway at this stage, because it took a while for Intel to make a decision one way or the other, as they often do. So now I did the interview for Intel while working it On, and it didn't work out, and that was fine. But then a couple of years later, I got a knock on the door again saying, remember that job job that you we turned you down for. We'd like to get. We're still interested in you. So,
Okay.
I went back and I talked to Intel, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Okay. So then you came to a circuit team, which was the kind of analog team that you managed.
Yep.
After that, you moved to physical design, and you managed that team. That's where you and I were together.
Yes.
And after that, you made another move. You went back to pre-silicon RTL validation management, which you have been still doing, right?
Correct.
Can you summarize all these moves and how has it been like?
Yeah. So again, all of them were opportunistic. The circuit team effectively got disbanded due to lack of scale in Shannon, and the physical design team needed a manager because the current manager was leaving. So I kind of fit the bill. I guess the great experience I had at Analog Devices was I worked as a digital designer, but I did everything. So I did, I did the architecture, the RTL, the verification, the synthesis, the physical design, everything. So I had an overall broad knowledge of small digital designs. So therefore, to some extent, I was probably had the qualifications at least to understand what people were talking about. So within, so while I never was worked in physical design or in verification or in RTL in Intel, I understand the concepts, and therefore I guess I probably have sufficient knowledge to kind of manage a team while not being necessarily able to do the work. So it's been interesting, and then the physical design, we started scaling that down a little bit due to becoming an IP house rather than doing chips. And that's when the verification manager at the time wanted to do something different. So again, the opportunity presented itself, and then me leaving presented you with an opportunity. So I guess I could sum up my life by kind of saying I've just taken all the opportunities that have come rather than planning any of them. And it's worked out pretty good for me. So some people plan things, and maybe that's a better way. But this is an alternative way, and it's kind of worked pretty good for me. And you can't really be disappointed if you don't have, all of these things happened opportunistically. I wasn't expecting them. So whereas if you're expecting them and they don't happen, then maybe you can get more disappointed. So so for me,
that was a wonderful career, right? It was a wonderful career. You look back, okay, started Analog Devices, few other companies, and Intel, moving to management. That's an aspects of your life that I never, thought of. It's such a wonderful career there. So, what do you think? Was it? You feel like it was all luck, or it was like 50-50 was it? How you describe that? That's a very good. It's a kind of a very good question, and I don't think I know the answer to it. I think maybe it's a little bit like the golfing expression. The more I practice, the luckier I get. I suppose I've been in the opportunities that presented themselves, which have been lucky, but I guess I've been able to avail of them, which I guess is probably somewhat down to. If I hadn't done a good job in the previous role, I'm probably not going to get offered a job in the next role. So I think it's a combination of there's definitely luck there. There's definitely a good element of luck there, but it's maybe not all. It's not completely random either. I think there's you make your own luck to some extent. So I think if you do a good job in one role, you've got a better chance of getting another role. And it's probably one thing I kind of learned in some course or other that I did in Intel is, if you're doing a crummy job for a while or it's not a very enjoyable job, if you do a bad job on it, it's only going to go downhill from there. So no matter what job you're given to do, you got to really do the best you can at it, because you've got to
good chance of getting out and doing, getting out of that role that you're in. So if you're not happy, you still need to do a good job. Otherwise, it becomes a deteriorating cycle. And if you do a bad job on a boring job, you're going to get an even worse job to do next time.
How you keep yourself motivated? Still.
Yeah. That's also a good question. And there's times. I think the fact that we're doing different stuff all the time is what helps. I would imagine if I was doing the same thing for 30 odd years that I've been doing it, that I wouldn't be very motivated anymore. But because it's different, and because I probably never spend more than, I think even the new projects that you start give you some motivation. So you work on a project for 2 or 3 years. By the time you get to the end of it, the adrenaline keeps you going to get the project over the line. But if you had to keep going at it for another 3 years, I think the motivation would wane. But the new project just brings along, I think, some motivation, new challenges, different things to learn, different ways of doing things, and the people are huge. New people in the team, I think, help to motivate you as well. Working with different people, I really, it's a huge aspect of the job that I enjoy is the people that I meet and the people that I manage and the people I interact with. And that's what.
You got such a great personality, very friendly, humble person. I think your aspects of personality are something that makes you great in that role as well. So now you are.
Thanks, Rashid. You're too kind, I think.
No, I mean it. So right now you're hiring engineers. I mean, there could be people watching this, and maybe they can get some benefit from it, and at the same time you can maybe reach some people there as well. So what kind of people you're hiring, and what kind of roles and roles?
Yeah. So we're trying to grow the Silicon team in Shannon at the moment, and we're hiring into multiple different roles. We're hiring into verification engineers. We're hiring RTL design engineers, and hopefully in the near future we'll be hiring some physical design engineers as well. So it's an exciting time to be there. So and we're hiring everything from experienced people to more junior people to get that right mix. So we've got to we're going to run another IP within our team, and that's why we've got a growing team to be able to execute on that. So anybody who's interested in coming to Ireland, coming to Shannon, we'd love to have you.
Yes, it's a beautiful place, and I had a wonderful time there. So thanks so much, Kieren, for sharing all that with us. Really appreciate that. I see sun coming there, so maybe you should finish the food, enjoy the sun before it goes. Any last thing you want to say before we finish? That I didn't ask.
I guess I just say. I just want to thank you for thinking of me as one of the people you wanted to talk to. As I say, I can't imagine it to be of that much interest to people, but thanks for thinking of me and giving me this opportunity. I really enjoyed working with you when you were in Shannon. I think we had a good dynamic, and I think I learned a lot from you, and you probably learned 1 or 2 things from me. So it was great to work together. So thanks a lot, and I hope you and your family continue to enjoy your time in the US. So maybe you'll come back to Shannon someday.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. So thank you so much, Kieren. Wonderful day and wonderful weekend. And talk to you.
Yeah, great talking to you again. Take it easy, Rashid.
Okay.
Yeah. Be good. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.